What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. In the last video, we talked about how the $10,000 to $20,000 of student loan forgiveness has already been passed for 43 million Americans through presidential executive order. And they're going to start rolling out the paperwork here in October. And could other types of debt forgiveness be coming for Americans, like credit card debt forgiveness, medical debt forgiveness, mortgage debt forgiveness? Could we see this? It's a very real possibility. Check this out. So first of all, the Biden administration has approved $32 billion in student loan forgiveness before the $10,000 to $20,000 of student loan debt forgiveness even happened. Since they came in office. This you can see this from Forbes here. This is for people that have permanent disabilities, people where the school closed on them and just left them high and dry. The school went bankrupt, and also the school defrauded them and basically said you'll get a job for sure, things like that, and they didn't. Okay, you can also see here Biden made a major dent in the student debt crisis. And it's time he does so for the growing medical debt load in the US. There's actually tens and tens of millions of people that have medical debt. Attorneys and advocates are now saying that the president should have medical debt forgiveness. Will we start to see other types of debt forgiveness as well? And remember that the student loan debt forgiveness, they didn't raise anybody's taxes to do this. The government is just waiving this debt. Nobody's taxes are getting raised. Nobody's paying any more taxes for this to happen. And remember that the government's also paid down like $1.7 trillion in the national debt, the national deficit this year. So they're kind of doing both. But check this out. The medical debt load in the US currently totals around 195 billion, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. America's medical debt problem has parallels to the student debt crisis, experts told Business Insider. Both are financially debilitating, putting people at risk of not being able to afford rent and food. The Biden administration is already taking steps to address it, but the challenge of helping more low-income borrowers remains. The Biden administration finally delivered long-promised relief to more than 40 million Americans with federal student loans, half of whom will see their debt completely wiped out completely for about 20-some million Americans because they have $10,000 or $20,000 of student loan debts, and it will just wipe out their debt down to zero. But experts on medical debts as well say that student loans are just one piece of a household debt crisis, which debilitates millions of Americans. At the end of August, President Joe Biden announced up to $20,000 in student loan debt forgiveness for federal borrowers making under $125,000 a year. And there's also a possibility here. You can see here the Education Department is assessing whether student loan borrowers with privately held student loans could qualify for Biden's debt cancellation as well. This is expected to completely eliminate the balance for 20 million borrowers. So think about what this does to help out this 20 to 43 million Americans. It takes a chunk out of what is often a prohibitive burden for many Americans, with interest snowballing an ever-mounting collection of bills that becomes impossible to pay off. It's a huge burden off their backs. And again, nobody's paying more taxes to do this. It's just the government helping out people. It's a massive stimulus program, basically. For some, medical debt can be just as prohibitive. The medical debt load in the US currently totals around $195 billion, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. And 23 million Americans have medical debt of at least $250. 3 million Americans have unpaid medical debt totaling over $10,000. Like student loan borrowers, those with medical debt are not immune to unfair practices. The Consumer Finance Protection Bureau previously found that inaccurate medical billing cost Americans $88 billion last year. That is unbelievable. Inaccurate medical billing cost Americans $88 billion last year. That's just sickening, right? When both medical and student debt snowball, they become conduits for potentially devastating financial consequences, leading people to lose their homes and face lawsuits for instances. Experts on medical debt see that as just one parallel between the two crises. One major difference is that medical debt is totally unavoidable and is a life and death situation in some circumstances. Quote, you literally had no option because it was an emergency situation. The difference is that medical debt can happen to absolutely anybody and it cannot be planned. Experts said that the financial consequences on defaulting on medical debt, like on student loans, can be devastating, citing that liens on a person's homes, a legal claim on property that can be used to as collateral to repay debt, on one way in which medical debt can become parasitic. If you default on either student debt or medical debt, lenders can also move to directly take some of your paycheck, as much as 25% of it. Lawsuits for medical debt are more common than those for student debt, but both can transpire. In April, the White House also unveiled ways to help Americans with medical debt, including increasing scrutiny over inaccurate medical billing, equipping consumers with education tools, and to help handle confusing billing practices. Also passed this year, as you can see here, as of July 1st, some medical debt may no longer hurt your credit score. Here's why. Medical debt will start falling off of credit reports this summer. So you can see here, they're starting to make changes to certain types of debt. If you're one of the many with looming medical debts on your credit report, there's a relief on the way. The three largest credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, are removing cleared medical debts from consumer reports beginning July 1st, 2022. That means if you've paid your medical bill in full and the debt is sitting on your credit report as a negative mark, this negative mark will now be removed. It's part of a larger effort by Biden administration to decrease or eliminate medical debt as part of government lending decisions. For the millions of Americans that are battling an estimated $88 billion in medical debt, according to a report by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau last month, it's a big relief. Medical debt remarks will be wiped away from millions of credit reports beginning this summer. The move will remove an estimated 70% of negative medical debt remarks, giving many a hopeful jump in their credit score. Paid medical debt that was in collections will no longer be included on your consumer credit reports. You'll have more time before unpaid medical debt is reported on your credit report. Unpaid medical debt that is currently in collections for 1 year will be reported on credit reports. This is an increase from 6 months that was enacted in 2017. Starting in the first half of 2023, the three bureaus will no longer include medical debt in collections that is under $500 on credit reports. So that will start in the first half of next year. In a recent survey at healthcare.com, all living generations indicated their medical debt has harmed their credit score, with millennials being the highest at 52%. Now, the other thing is the government owns the majority of mortgage debt, similar to how the government owns like over 95% of student loan debt. The government actually owns the majority of mortgage debt through government organizations as well. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, government housing lenders that are backed by the government. Okay, so the government actually could forgive mortgage debt if they wanted to, similar to student loan debt. Okay. If you really think about it, mortgage debt is similar to student loan debt. Okay. You pay on it for many, many years. Very, very similar. Okay. Credit card debt, same thing. In fact, credit card debt is actually worse because mortgages actually, with the rates going higher, that could be something that we might see. But when we think about credit card rates, they're going higher as well. Remember that the interest rates that the Fed is raising, we've saw housing interest rates go from like in the twos to they were at 2 to 3%, the high 2s to 3%, sometimes in some cases the low twos, but we'll just say 3%. Now they're to 7% or more. This is causing, if you went to buy a new home compared to what they were, compared to what they are now, we've done some comparisons on the show. The same exact home could cost you upwards of $1,000 more per month just in interest. Just in interest. Again, it depends on the price of the home and stuff like that and interest rate. But we did an actual one on the show here. I think it was $850 more per month on a home that was like $350,000. And in some states, you can't even buy a home for that price. So, the interest rates are really going to be a massive, massive concern here. And then credit card interest rates as well. We talked about how we showed an article that said on every $5,000 of interest, or I mean, every $5,000 of credit card debt you have, with interest rates going up about 3%, it's going to cost the average American an extra, I think it was about $1,100 more in interest. So this is a massive problem here. So, and remember that the government really has programs like this. I don't want to say all the time, but when we look at all the different programs that the government has had, rent assistance for over $40 billion, mortgage assistance for $9.9 billion, utility assistance every single year. There's utility assistance in every single state every single year. I have videos for you guys down below in the description of this video on how to apply for that. So the rent assistance is kind of ending. We're just kind of been the money has been depleted here, but it was over $40 billion. That's a lot of money for all the states. We see more of that here in the future? Absolutely. All they need to do is allocate more money. They could take some of that unused stimulus money, 600 to 800 billion dollars. It's almost impossible to know exactly how much money is unused because it's in all these different kind of buckets of money, and they have to add it all up, and it's impossible to know. Okay, but could they allocate some of that money and say, okay, here's more rent assistance money, here's more homeowner assistance money, or we're going to executive order this and send it out as a stimulus check or as more SNAP money or as whatever. Who knows what could happen in the future? Who knows? I'll keep you up to date here on the channel. Or we're going to send it out as debt forgiveness. Okay, any of this stuff is possible. There's so much money that's already approved. And think about like the student loan forgiveness. He did that through executive order. He's not even using the leftover money there. It's just executive order, and it's government debt, so they're really just writing it off. Okay. Same thing with the SNAP program. When they raise SNAP program, they just do that through the USDA. That's just through the USDA's authority. Okay. They don't even need to use approved money that's stimulus money. It's just through USDA authority. Okay. So they don't need to use stimulus money. So really, there's a lot of ways that the government can help people in need and sometimes not even use stimulus money. So you got to kind of really remember here that they can get creative and help out millions and millions and millions of people here. And there's a lot of different programs going on here, a lot of different programs. And I'll keep you up to date here. What do you think could be next? What do you think could be next? Well, obviously, we know student loan forgiveness is next. That's 43 million Americans. Massive, massive SNAP program coming up here very, very soon here. I'll link you to a video I just did on that. We'll give you more details on that. But that's for over 40 million Americans as well. 80 some million Americans. Between that, 32 different states passing state stimulus checks, property tax relief checks, lowering taxes, and passing checks and money back to their people. Hopefully, we continue to see more states doing that because that's what like over 100 million Americans. The one that I just liked here was Georgia sent out checks to 3 million Americans, the lowest income people in that state. That was $350 to people that were like on Medicaid and SNAP and TANF. The thing I don't like about that is that people are having a hard time accessing the money. So it's a little bit. I think that the people from Georgia they're eventually gonna be able to get all the it's like an electronic debit card. It's just like confusing for people. I think that you guys are going to figure it all out and eventually get it all out, get all the money out of it. But it's just I guess they're having some problems accessing or kind of getting all the money. Some stores don't know how to ring it up correctly. I think you'll get all the money out eventually, but I think it's just a little bit it's a little bit difficult. It's like using a debit card that has like some complicated instructions basically. But hey, an extra $350 per person to 3 million people in Georgia. Georgia really hasn't done much up until this point. So that was a good thing. And it was for the lowest income Americans in that state, or lowest income Georgians in that state, maybe I should say. And Georgia's a pretty big state population wise. I don't know exactly. I don't know if they're in the top 10. Maybe they're in the top 10, but this is kind of a good thing. So we're seeing more and more and more states do this, and really I think that we're getting into like the last 3 months here of this year. But when we look at, we'll just fast forward a little bit here, when we look into next year, if you just kind of can just think about this, so many states still have massive amounts of money. We look at the budget surplus that states have and the stimulus money that states still have. There's still a massive amount of money that each state has. So it's really nice to see that we can still see basically money coming from both. Because if we go back a year before that, um, there was only a few states back from 2021 that did state stimulus checks. It was like California and Maryland did the $500 checks. I can't really remember them all, but I know that those two states did checks. There was a few states that did checks, but surely it wasn't 32, 33 states or so that we're up to now that are doing state stimulus checks, tax rebate checks, property tax rebate checks, lowering taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So I think last year was like maybe five, maybe 10, maybe. um, I don't know. I'm sure there was a few more. Maybe we could count Florida with their $1,000 teachers. Was that last year? The first round of that? Was that in 2021? I don't know if we could count that because it was a small amount, but I don't know, maybe we can. But the thing is that when we look at it now, 32 states, that's a good amount. It's a good amount. Maybe we could keep that going forward. So when we kind of look here, if we look back here, once they kind of start these programs, they kind of stick. They kind of stick. People kind of get used to them. They kind of expect them as long as the money's there. As long as the money's there. So that's the key though. They got to have the money, the surplus money. If the states don't have the money, they can't necessarily do these type of things. But sometimes they find a way. So I'll keep you up to date here on a daily basis. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. We always love that. We have a great community here on our YouTube channel. If you ever read the comments down below, you'll see some familiar faces here in the comment section. You'll get to know some of the members here. Like if you just read some of the comments here, Diana, she's just an absolutely amazing person. She's always in the comments here. Nancy Sloan, blessings to you. We just have some of the warmest comments here. Linda, you do a great job, Jimmy. Thank you so much. Carolyn, she's been a longtime member here. So many different people here. Pamela Rindor, thank you so much. Really, really, so many great people here, always in the comment section. Um, Yeah, hope everyone is in the path of the storm here in Florida. Yeah, I hope that everybody is doing okay there in Florida. Let me know how you are doing there in Florida. Let me know if you guys are okay there and how it's going there right now. But yeah, if you ever read our comment section, we have the warmest comment section there. But yeah, let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I love to read through the comment section. I read through them almost every single day. And feel free to join as part of our community. You can see here um, that all you got to do is click the subscribe button, which will be right here. If you haven't done that yet, click the subscribe button. It's completely free to do so. After you click this, a bell icon will appear. Click that as well. This way you'll get notifications when we go live, which is every single day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember those times so you don't miss out on new videos. Remember, it's completely free to subscribe. All it does is make it so YouTube will show you our videos and you won't miss out on new videos. That's all it really does. It's completely free. You just click a button and that's it. And you can click the thumbs up button to show YouTube that you like our videos. And that's it. That's it. It's completely free. You can click on this video here next to watch the important announcement coming out here on September 28th. And here's my newest video on Social Security payments, $2,400 raises in that video. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.